everyone! Today I'm going to talk with you about Latin Americans, about cooperation, and most importantly about communication with people from this culture. Okay, so first of all, I would like to start from the basic point about the culture for the further understanding of everything I'll be talking about. So, the Latin American communication is mostly the passive way, which means that in Latino culture, passive communication would be like the most effective style. So one person will not openly challenge another one. Like by being non-confrontational, the client can preserve his personal relationship with the provider, and this is like the primary thing. Showing respect, maintaining harmony are more important from people from those countries. They getting things done their way. So they think like, if I can maintain the good relationship with this person, I'm sure we can work out the rest. By the way people say yes or no, like with hesitation, or they tell in a tentative way or with enthusiasm, another person tends to understand where this person really stands, but not by the words, by the intonation. So another important thing in Latino culture is indirect style of communication. As I mentioned before, for them it's very important to maintain a good relationship with their social circle, and in this context, it means being non-confrontational and being flexible, by which you may change sometime in your speech the words yes or no by maybe. Or, to give you another example, something has broken, and you know the person who has broken it, but you shall not say you have broken it or he or she had broken it, because by this you will embarrass the person or will blame he or she. So you shall just state that that thing has broken, focusing mostly on the problem and not the one who caused it. Okay, so the last point will be high context, because in Latino culture communication is extremely high context, because when you listen to them, you can understand how not only all the little things of the story, but also all of the people in it, and all of the details are very interconnected. Like, for example, in Ukraine, your neighbor comes to you and asks you for a car, to borrow your car, and it will be totally normal. The person needs it, okay, you can borrow it. But in Latino culture, your neighbor will come to you, explain to you primary what has happened to his car, what is the urgent transportation, why his or her family needs it, what good things can he or she do if he or she has your car, and what can happen afterwards. And maybe after all this, he or she will will ask you directly about borrowing your car, or he or she may not even do it because you could understand it from all the background you gave them. That is why in this culture, the background story of everything is as important as the final result, like the final thought that the person would like to bring to you. And in my opinion, they do this, they use this style of communication because of the view of the world, because people see themselves as parts of deeply interrelated groups, because the social circle, good relationship with them is very important. Therefore, it also becomes important to explain how the action of one member of the society can affect the others. Okay, so now we will move on to the next part, which are tips for the communication with the people from this culture. Okay, so the first point will be work with good translators, because sometimes direct translations from English or from any other language, which I mean word by word translation, may not work in Spanish. And also your audience may find it offensive or insulting, or your audience may simply not understand this. So try to find a translator who is willing to take his or her time to understand your message, to understand what you want to bring to the audience, and to make it culturally appropriate and culturally sensitive, so your audience will understand you. Okay, so next tip will be for official communication. So in official communication, try printing direct mail and other printed resources in both your native language and Spanish, because it will help you to maintain all the documentation and all the information in both your language and the language of the person you are communicating with. And it may be a good tip for any type of communication, not only the official one, by trying to construct firstly the message in Spanish, if you know it, and afterwards in your native language. And I will explain to you why. Because firstly, you construct it in Spanish, you bring your message in Spanish, and then you mostly translate it to your native language to see if it makes sense and how good is the delivery of the message. Okay, so the next point is focus on personal touch. By this I mean try to establish more face-to-face communication. I hope you understood already from my presentation that in this culture, maintaining and creating some connections with other people is very important. And of course, any connection is better created by face-to-face communication and not by phone or email communication, which is considered to be more indirect and impersonal. So, tailor your message to the audience. By this I mean that Spanish-speaking cultures tend to be more like right-brained, and in comparison with general European audience or US audience. So Hispanics and Latinos want to be the big picture of all the information, and it also needs to appeal more to their intuitive and their creative side. For example, let's take a normal presentation from United States. How does it do is they make it really straightforward. They bring the main point first, and then they may bring the supportive information. But the Hispanic and Latino culture consider it as a cold and too straightforward way of presenting. In this case, with Latino culture, you have first to bring all the background information, then you have slowly come to the main point, explain all the information, explain your idea, and then come with a conclusion. Okay, so we come to the last point, which is do not assume that a typical Hispanic or Latino audience exists. Actually, the Spanish-speaking audience is very diverse. You may talk to people from Panama, Puerto Rico, Ecuador, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, and they all are considered to be Latinos or Hispanics only because they speak the same language, which is Spanish. But their experience and the use of idioms makes the language much more complex, much more interesting, much more diverse than you can even imagine. So if you want to work in the region, you better find out what your exact audience is, because something that works in one country may not work in another one. However, they may seem similar and are all from the same region. So there is one thing I really like to ask everybody, like never forget the main rule, that there is nothing which can be considered as typical. There is no typical person, there is no typical culture, there is nothing typical in the cultural diversity, because we are all different.